A woman stares directly at her own son. His face is familiar, his voice sounds familiar, but inside her mind, something refuses to connect. For a terrifying moment, he feels like a stranger. Alzheimer's disease can do that. It can slowly break the connections inside the human brain until the people you love stop feeling recognizable. And the most disturbing part? The process may begin years, or even decades, before the first obvious symptom appears. So what actually happens inside the brain? Why do people with Alzheimer's forget recent memories first? Why can someone remember childhood, but forget what happened 5 minutes ago? Why do some patients stop recognizing their own family? And what does it really mean for a human being to disappear before death? To understand Alzheimer's, we first have to understand something far more fragile than most people realize: memory itself. Most people imagine memory like a storage drive, as if the brain simply saves information somewhere. But that is not how memory actually works. Your brain is more like a living city made of electrical activity. Right now, inside your skull, around 86 billion neurons are constantly communicating with one another. Every memory you have, every face you recognize, every voice you love, every emotional moment from your life exists because these cells continuously exchange signals. Neurons connect through microscopic junctions called synapses, and together they create gigantic communication networks. Some networks help you understand language. Some help you recognize faces. Some allow you to navigate familiar places. Others store emotional associations tied to your memories. Even your sense of identity depends on these systems working together. In other words, you are not simply your body. You are the patterns of activity moving through these networks. Right now, your brain is holding together every memory that tells you who you are. Every person you love only exists inside your mind because these networks are still connected. And Alzheimer's disease slowly begins destroying those patterns, one connection at a time. One of the scariest things about Alzheimer's is how quietly it can begin. Long before someone becomes obviously forgetful, abnormal proteins may already be building inside the brain. Two of the most important are called beta-amyloid and tau. Tiny beta-amyloid proteins begin collecting between neurons. Meanwhile, tau proteins begin twisting and tangling inside the neurons themselves. At first, the damage is microscopic. A person may still appear completely normal. They go to work, talk normally, drive normally, live normally. But underneath the surface, the communication system inside the brain is becoming less stable. Imagine a massive city where roads slowly begin collapsing. Traffic can still move at first. Drivers find alternate routes. The city compensates. But eventually, the system becomes overloaded. That is very similar to what happens in Alzheimer's disease. The brain tries to adapt, but over time, more and more communication pathways begin failing. And according to research from organizations like the NIH and Alzheimer's Association, these biological changes may begin 10 to 20 years before major symptoms appear, which means Alzheimer's may already be spreading inside a brain that still feels completely normal. A person may laugh normally, work normally, drive normally, hold conversations normally, while deep inside the brain, the communication network holding their memories together is already starting to fail. That means by the time memory problems become obvious, the disease may already have been progressing silently for years. One of the first major regions affected by Alzheimer's is called the hippocampus. This area plays a critical role in forming new memories. Think of it like a memory processing center. It helps convert experiences happening right now into stable, long-term memories. But in Alzheimer's disease, this system begins breaking down, and that creates one of the most recognizable symptoms. Recent memories start disappearing first. This is why people with early Alzheimer's may Repeat the same question multiple times. Forget recent conversations, lose objects constantly, or become confused in familiar places. And something strange often happens. Older memories may remain surprisingly strong. A patient might clearly remember a childhood story from 50 years ago while forgetting what they ate an hour earlier. Why? Because older memories usually have stronger neural pathways. They have been reinforced for decades. Recent memories are more fragile. They depend on newer connections that are easier to damage. It is similar to writing new information onto a system whose wiring is already failing. The information may enter briefly, but it cannot stabilize properly. And slowly, more memory pathways begin collapsing. As Alzheimer's spreads deeper into the brain, memory is no longer the only thing affected. Language networks begin weakening, decision-making becomes slower, emotional regulation changes. Some people become anxious, others become emotionally distant, some become confused or paranoid, and eventually, the disease may begin damaging recognition systems themselves. This is where Alzheimer's becomes emotionally devastating. A mother may look directly at her daughter and genuinely not understand who she is, not because her eyes stopped working, not because she forgot a single name, but because the brain networks responsible for recognition have started collapsing. The visual information still reaches the brain, but the emotional and memory connections attached to that face are breaking apart. Imagine opening a familiar file on a corrupted computer. The file still exists, but the system can no longer properly interpret it. That is part of what makes Alzheimer's so terrifying. The body may still be alive, the person may still be physically present, but the networks that once created their sense of self are slowly disappearing. Most people think Alzheimer's is a disease of forgetting, but at its deepest level, it is really a disease of disconnection. Your memories are not stored in one single location. They exist as patterns, repeated electrical activity, living communication between billions of cells. Alzheimer's slowly damages those communication systems. Signals weaken, connections fail, networks become fragmented, and over time, entire parts of the brain begin losing synchronization. This is why Alzheimer's can affect memory, personality, language, emotion, judgment, and eventually even basic body functions. The disease is not simply deleting information, it is damaging the biological structure that allows identity itself to exist. In many ways, Alzheimer's is the gradual collapse of the human self, not all at once, but slowly, one pathway at a time, one memory at a time, one connection at a time. In late-stage Alzheimer's disease, the damage spreads into regions responsible for basic survival. Movement becomes difficult. Swallowing may fail. Communication becomes extremely limited. Some patients eventually lose the ability to walk safely, eat independently, or fully understand the world around them. Complications like infections and pneumonia become increasingly dangerous. But for many families, the most painful part happened much earlier. Because long before physical death occurs, many feel the person they loved had already begun disappearing. That is the true horror of Alzheimer's disease. Not simply memory loss, but the slow erosion of the systems that make someone feel human. The slow fading of identity itself. Every thought you have, every memory you treasure, every person you love exists because billions of neurons are continuously working together inside your brain. Alzheimer's disease slowly breaks those connections, and as the networks weaken, parts of the person begin fading with them. That is why Alzheimer's can feel so terrifying, because it reminds us that memory is not just information. Memory is part of what allows us to remain ourselves, and when those connections begin disappearing, it can feel as if a human being is slowly vanishing before death ever arrives. A person can disappear while their heart is still beating. Disclaimer: this video is created for educational and visual analysis purposes only. It is intended to help viewers better understand how Alzheimer's disease may gradually affect the brain and memory systems over time. This content is not medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. For medical concerns or symptoms, please consult a licensed healthcare professional.